Welcome to our Instagram Live. Today we are joined by a very, very special guest that I'm so excited about. Her name is Lauren Hale. Lauren is a beauty and from the inside out and the outside in influencer on Instagram. We're so excited because naturally looking, and we were like, oh my gosh, this is tips and tricks and all the things that we need for ourselves to be able to integrate into our lives. And we really think that, hi Lauren.
Hello, how are you?
Great. How are you?
I'm good. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm so excited to talk to you and just share our followers with you and maybe some of our information with your followers. I was just talking about how Michelle, my other co-founder, and I came across your feed, and we would like send each other your videos and be like, oh, you got to try this, you got to try that. And then we would, you know, the eyebrows and the bronzer and the eyeshadow were like huge for us. And then we, even when we would see each other in person, I would be like, did you do Lauren's makeup? And she would be like, yeah, did you? And so
oh, I love it. That's amazing.
We just love you and what you do so much. And we're just really excited to do this cross collaboration because we feel like what you do is so good for our people, and what we do could really help the women that follow you. So
I agree. I'm so glad we've connected. You guys have already taught me so much, and so I'm just so excited to share you guys with my followers as well, because you know, we'll talk about it even more, but I'm on this perimenopause journey, and so I've just learned so much just being around and seeing your feed and just talking to you guys. So I'm so excited that we can do this.
Yeah, great. So why don't we start by, do you want to give a little intro about what you do? I know most of your followers already know, but for ours, and then we can give a little intro about what we do, and then I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Yeah, definitely. So my name is Lauren. I know you've already introduced me with that. I'm 43 years old. I say that because my main page is basically all about kind of navigating your 40s and beyond. It started as a makeup page solely because when I joined the beauty space 4 years ago, there was no one I felt like at 40 years old showing makeup. It was all 20 and 30-year-olds. And to be really honest, at 40 years old and older, our skin starts changing, and the way we used to do our makeup just doesn't work anymore. So for me, I was like in this space doing all of these things, and now I feel like there's just so many more women that are, you know, in their 40s, beyond 50s, 60s, and it is such a beautiful thing that they're able to show up on Instagram and share, you know, what's working for them, because we just didn't have that voice for a very long time. So I started 4 years ago doing that, and so I love teaching easy makeup tips, and I mean easy. Like, you watch my videos and you should be able to go and just go implement them right away, and you don't have to be a makeup expert. So I love doing that. And so I started that way. And then about a year ago, I hit 42 and started having these weird symptoms. I started feeling very alone, I didn't know what was going on with my body, to be really honest. And so I didn't see anyone else sharing about it, to be honest, back then. And it's probably like a lot of my followers, and maybe probably not yours because they found you, but just didn't know where to turn. And so I started sharing my journey about 4 or 5 months ago, just being really raw and authentic about where I was coming from, how I felt very alone. I mean, very raw with my viewers. So sharing that perimenopause journey. I'm obviously not a doctor, but I've connected with a lot of women, especially like you guys, who are experts in the field. And so being able to share and bring that piece into my kind of makeup world, I feel like that's really helping women see their whole self. Because honestly, in your 40s, it's just such an exciting time. I remember I turned 40 and I was like, this is the best thing. I feel like I don't care what people think about me. My circle is smaller, all these amazing things about 40. When I hit 42, it was like I hit a wall. And I know that, and we'll talk about this, but I know that that's what a lot of women are struggling with right now. And so to be able to incorporate all of that. So in a long story short there, that's kind of what my page is about. It's very raw, it's very authentic, but you're also gonna walk away with lots of tips from me too. So
yeah, and I love it. I always look forward to your videos and your content. Like, and I'm not a huge social media consumer. We make a lot of videos and we make a lot of social media posts, but I don't consume a lot because I don't always find things that are relevant for me. And exactly like what you said, your page is super, super like relevant for me. I'm in my early 40s also. And it just totally was like, yeah, like all these women who are not my age, like giving me tips, and like it didn't really kind of resonate. So,
Yes.
but I'm Kristin. I'm a certified nurse midwife, and I'm one of the co-founders of Femgevity Health. So fem and longevity go together to make the word Femgevity. So we're all about longevity health, integrative health, functional health, and we have a perimenopause and menopause focus because we really believe that menopause is the kryptonite of feminine longevity. And untreated menopause for women has a lot of deleterious consequences for long-term health, specifically in cardiovascular health, bone health, which also leads to like fracture mobility issues, and then cognitive decline and Alzheimer's. And so we're on this huge platform really trying to educate women about what's available, what's not available, what supplements to take HRT, not take HRT, what time to take HRT. And that's really like our really big platform. I've been a midwife for almost 20 years, and I've been doing hormone balancing like really, really actively for about 15 years. And my co-founder is Michelle, who comes on our videos a lot too. Her background is in the diagnostic lab space. So together with the clinical background that I have, and her space is in laboratory, we are able to kind of find the best labs, use the best functional testing labs, get women the answers that they're looking for, meet them where they're at, and then treat them during really starting in their late 30s, because that's kind of when perimenopause can kind of come up for some women. But like you said, like your experience, like 43 is really the average, I would say, that most women start to experience, not menopause, but perimenopausal symptoms.
Yeah.
So,
Yes.
yeah.
And I love what you guys are doing, which is why I wanted to go live with you guys, because I know on my part, I get messages, tons of messages every day from women not sure where to turn, where to go, not being able to afford, help. And so I just love what you guys are creating. And so it's really neat to hear what you guys are doing, because I think a lot of people don't know that they can work with someone. They don't have to be in a clinic office to find help. And so anyways, that's one thing I'm really excited that what you guys are offering to women.
Thank you. Yeah. And we also, on our page, we try to give a lot of like tips and tricks, just like you in a different space, to help women that like you said, they don't have access to care, or they can't afford any out-of-pocket costs. We can kind of give them a little bit of like help of where to go. And we're always answering DMs, and we're always like trying to give women as much advice as we possibly can. We offer 10-minute free consultations even. So we're definitely on the same page as you with that.
I love that. I love that so much.
Yeah. So I don't know if you want to start by talking about some questions that you might have, some perimenopause questions that you get asked a lot, or that think women are kind of reaching out to you and saying, or common things that women are really talking about.
Yeah, we can definitely start with that. So I know, like, I talk a lot about the symptoms, because for me, that was something that I was so unaware of. I was just like, is this normal? Is this just like is this the new me last summer? But I know a big one that I think that a lot of people struggle with is and I did too. This is one of the biggest things that started for me, was night anxiety. That drove me insane because I wasn't sleeping. And then we all know when you're not sleeping, everything else goes downhill. This was before I got any help whatsoever, but I know I get a lot of DMs from women who have a lot of anxiety, and I know that anxiety comes on a lot. Maybe we can talk about like why that's happening, and then maybe some things they could do, because I know there's a lot of women, and I have such a place for that, because I remember not sleeping for like 3 weeks straight, and it was horrible. And a lot of women are going through that and just don't know what to do.
Yeah. So you're talking about one of the things that I feel like I hit home about as much as I possibly can, which is a lot of women have this misconception about menopause, like, oh, that's going to happen to me in my 50s. And that's like an estrogen issue, and my estrogen is going to drop and fall in my 50s, and then I'm going to have hot flashes. I think that's kind of like the menopause standard message, right?
Right.
And what we don't know as much about, like as a society collectively, is that hormones actually start to fall around the late 30s, and specifically the hormones of progesterone. That's usually one of the first hormones to fall. So in your late 30s, your progesterone is starting to go down. And then another hormone, which is called DHEA, which is an androgen, not as similar as testosterone, but kind of in that family. And then there's testosterone, and that starts to go down as well, way before, about 10 years before your estrogen starts to go down. And when you have lower progesterone levels, you're going to have the same amount of estrogen, but lower progesterone. And so your estrogen to progesterone ratio is going to be different than what it was in your 30s and even in your 20s when they were kind of more in tandem and more similar.
Okay.
So when you start to lose progesterone and when your progesterone goes down, progesterone really affects the central nervous system, and it affects the relaxation and calming. It also is a smooth muscle relaxant, so it helps with homeostasis of digestion and respiration. There's a lot of smooth muscle components in the body that will get more excited as you get into your 40s if you don't kind of supplement with progesterone or be aware that progesterone might be falling, or kind of take proactive measures to make sure you're recycling estrogen and progesterones in your body well. So the classic symptoms of low progesterone, which you described, is, so night sweats is a really common one, insomnia, increasing anxiety, increasing depression, and then just like an increasing sense of fatigue and the downward effect of what I said about like when you have less sleep, like you're going to have more brain fog, you're going to start to have memory lapses, you're going to feel more confused, and you're going to feel more fatigued throughout the day. So those are really, like, I would say the bulk and the cluster of the majority of what women report in their late 30s, early 40s, mid 40s when we're talking about perimenopause. And that's why progesterone also affects the GABA receptors in the brain, and the GABA receptors, which you talk about neurotransmitters. And I know sometimes I get really technical and I don't always mean to be, but basically progesterone can affect how you fall into sleep, turn into sleep. And then also a lot of women report they don't have issues falling asleep, but they have issues staying asleep. So that 3 a.m. waking is a very yeah, that's a really common sign of low progesterone. And then as far as what to do, progesterone, so there's two different types of progesterone. There's progestin, which is a synthetic version of your body's natural progesterone. So progesterone, when someone says I'm taking progesterone or I'm taking micronized progesterone, that is really what we call a bioidentical or a biosimilar. It's very, very similar to what your body already naturally makes. So we know a lot of other bioidentical hormones that we kind of commonly use. So insulin, like if you know someone who's on insulin, or if you know someone who's diabetic and they take insulin, or someone in their pregnancy took insulin for gestational diabetes, insulin is a bioidentical hormone because insulin is a hormone. When you take it from outside the body exogenously, it's the same. The same thing with thyroid replacement. So if someone's on Synthroid, or they're on levothyroxine, or they're on Cytomel, a T3, those are bioidentical or biosimilar. And so you're replacing a hormone that has kind of already gone down. So when we think about replacing or supporting progesterone, there are many, many, many over-the-counter companies that actually make bioidentical progesterone. So now other bioidenticals like testosterone and estrogen, you need a prescription, but progesterone, there are a lot of companies that make progesterone, and a lot of times progesterone in oil or progesterone in creams. And that is a really good way without even seeing someone, because progesterone is very safe to take for most women.
Okay.
That is a good way to kind of support and raise your own progesterone levels if you're starting to notice these symptoms in the perimenopausal or your late 30s, early 40s time.
That's so interesting. So I have a question, and I don't know if it totally relates, but DHEA, a lot of people say, like, I hear so many things because is that for progesterone, like DHEA? Like, some people say you shouldn't take it, and some people say you should take it, and I want to know what your thought is on that.
Yeah,
I actually got a message about that, so I was like, I'm gonna ask you while we're talking about that.
Yeah, so DHEA is also a hormone. It's also a sex steroid hormone. And when our body makes sex steroid hormones, I'm going to not say all the steps just for like simplicity and clarity's sake, but basically cholesterol makes progesterone.
Okay.
And progesterone pretty much makes every other sex steroid hormone, including cortisol, testosterone, DHEA, and the estrogens, the family of estrogens. And so the supplementation of DHEA really depends on what the outcome is, like what the woman is looking to achieve. When you are low in hormones across the board, or sometimes the body will really prioritize making cortisol. So the body wants you to be safe. It wants you to get away from the tiger. It wants to make sure that you're protected. So your body is going to take all of its resources and make cortisol, which is why when stress is high, the other hormones can go out of balance because the body is pushing all of its resources to having cortisol be high and making sure that you can stay awake and you can get where you need to go and you can see, and all of the wonderful things that cortisol is really good at. So chronic elevation of cortisol affects all the other sex steroid hormones. When you're low in something, which happens 30s, 40s, 50s, and you supplement with progesterone will automatically usually make the downward effect of what you need to make downstream. Because remember, you have cholesterol, progesterone, and then all the other hormones. So when you supplement with progesterone, it's usually going to make DHEA, it's going to make testosterone, it's going to make estrogens, it's going to make cortisol.
Okay.
So someone might want to supplement with DHEA if they are having, so DHEA is in the androgen family, so down the testosterone cascade. You can supplement with progesterone and raise your DHEA and raise your testosterone. Some women that doesn't work for them as well, or some women, they can't take progesterone orally, they can't take progesterone topically, and then they need to go down one step and they take DHEA to help boost fertility or help boost sex drive or help boost testosterone or help boost something called an AMH, an anti-Müllerian hormone. DHEA is very, very helpful to raise fertility, and especially if someone has been told they have, I don't like this term, but low ovarian reserve or like low fertility, because I don't really believe that that's necessarily true all the time, but DHEA can be a very helpful supplement for that specifically. So generally when we're talking about perimenopausal symptoms, I like to use progesterone and let the downward spiral and let the downward effect take its place naturally. If I'm not quite getting the effect that I want, and it's really a fertility or a libido or a sex drive or maybe a vaginal dryness issue, then I will add DHEA in for specific symptoms.
Okay, that's so helpful. Yeah, I feel like I'm just like learning so much just hearing this. This is so interesting to me because, and I think you'd probably agree, every woman, right? It's like, I kind of say this now, I feel like we're all just different puzzles and we have to find the right pieces for what works for us.
Yeah.
Because I know some, like you said, like DHEA might work for somebody and maybe not for other people, depending on your circumstances. So thank you for clarifying that. Cause I mean, like I said, this is like so much, I feel like I'm learning every day by even just speaking out. So I love that. Okay. So another question I had for you, and something I really, and I think it kind of goes back, I want to get to the gut, but that's coming. First one though, I want to talk about, because I think it goes with what you were just saying, is brain fog. I know that last summer, when that was one of the first symptoms I had besides the night anxiety and not being able to sleep, but brain fog, I would like be at a neighborhood barbecue looking at my friend who I've known forever, and I could not, it would take me 30 minutes to recall a name. And I thought I was literally going through like beginning Alzheimer's. I mean, that runs in my family. I was worried. Anyways, it was so bad. And it would just, and I've been one of those people that never had to write things down. I didn't need to like have a list for myself. I was always up here. And then all of a sudden I'm looking at someone, I'm like, I know you. What is your name? Or like my kid's friend, I was like, I can't remember their name. Like what? Anyways, I know a lot of women are really struggling with that. For me, my thyroid was super off. And so I don't know if that's a really common thing too.
Yeah. So it's what you're talking about is actually, I would say even brain fog is usually like an early symptom of perimenopause. And what you described as like the night sweats or the anxiety or the waking up at 3 a.m. is more of a later sign. Okay. So after you have multiple years of not getting enough deep sleep, that's when the brain fog will start to come in. So usually it's not just like several months, but it can be many, many, many years, which is why for women that have had children, like why women have that pregnancy brain and they have the brain fog in the postpartum period, usually for about 2 years, because they're not getting the same levels and amount of deep sleep that they need for, if you think about it in the brain, like deep sleep thins all the passageways in the brain. So the brain can let all of the garbage out during the day. So if you imagine like a street and like you only have a certain amount of time to sweep the street, and the time, and in order to get the street clean, you need an hour, but you're only spending 30 minutes sweeping the street, then every night you're going to have a little bit of a buildup and a little bit of a buildup, which is going to affect the brain and the brain's ability to like do cognition tasks, memory recall, facial recognitions, things like that. So the brain fog is a lot of times not even something that needs to be treated with hormones. It can be treated with tracking HRV or heart rate variability and tracking deep sleep and then making adjustments. And if you make all the adjustments to get the deep sleep, then you're still struggling with getting enough deep sleep, progesterone can be incredibly profound and incredibly supportive and helpful for women to get more heart rate. It's really a heart rate relaxation and get more deep sleep. We find this a lot in women who are like, I have really good sleep hygiene. I go to bed early every night. I sleep 8 or 9 hours, but I wake up and I still have the brain fog, or I wake up and I still have fatigue. I still feel tired. And a lot of times that's just a deep sleep issue and not much else that really needs to be tinkered with or played with there.
Okay. So it's not a thyroid, like, can your thyroid affect that as well though? Like,
so yeah, so thyroid, so hormones are so complicated and complex. And I love that you talk about it as a puzzle, because I think that's why I love doing this so much, is because I love puzzles. And so I love like how each woman is so individual, and it's like so fun to kind of work through everything together. But for a lot of women, thyroid will bind to a hormone called sex hormone binding globulin. And I don't know if women have heard about it, but SHBG, which is another hormone, so many fun hormones, that will actually kind of attach to some and not attach to others, which helps us to make certain hormones bioavailable or certain hormones available. So this is really common, like in thyroid replacement, like you'll get a blood draw and you'll get your total thyroid and you'll get your free thyroid done. Or women will get a total testosterone done and a free testosterone done. So the total is really like how much hormone does your body make, how much hormone is there for your body to utilize. But the free is really what's bioavailable. So then when it comes to sex hormone binding globulin, if you have too much of one hormone, then the sex hormone binding globulin can get released into, or not enough of another, it can get released into the system and then bind to things that it shouldn't be binding to, which is why when your hormones start to go off in perimenopause, it's very common for thyroid to go off as well. It's also common for cortisol to go off and insulin to go off, because your sex hormone binding globulin is kind of overactive and working overtime. And hormones are very pulsatile. So they release and then they relax, and they release and then they relax, which is why we also love pills and creams, and we don't use pellets and patches so much, because pellets and patches give continuous doses, and that doesn't mimic how the body naturally produces and releases hormones. But that's why you can see sometimes thyroid go off, up or down, in the perimenopausal time, very similar to pregnancy. So a lot of women, because human gonadotropin, or HCG, which is a hormone of pregnancy, will go up, it can affect a lot of women's thyroids. They can be hypothyroid or hyperthyroid just for their pregnancy, and then deliver, and then because the hormones self-regulate, they kind of go back to their normal baseline. So absolutely, thyroid can definitely change in perimenopause. And even women who are hypothyroid since they were teenagers, and they were on this totally consistent dose, and then they get to 42 and then they're like, oh my gosh, I had to double my synthroid, I had to double my levothyroxine. That's really common.
Yeah, that's so interesting about relating it kind of to pregnancy, because it really does make sense. And then I also liked how you said they kind of like, I don't know how you said that, but like they go off and on, like you were saying. That makes so much sense to me, because like I'm on a cream, and I know a lot of people, I don't want to go into HRT because it's a lot right now, but I know there's just a lot of things. I did the pellet, like my testosterone was super low when I was in my late 30s. And I did the pellet and they felt great the first time, and then it just literally I didn't feel that surge ever again after I did it. And so for me, it just didn't work. So I really like how you explain that, because I know there's a lot of different forms of HRT and things. And like I said, we could do this another time because it's a lot. But yeah, I like how you explain that. I haven't heard it that way. So someone did ask though, how long can a woman be on BHRT? Any research on that?
Yeah, there's a lot of research on HRT. It actually has changed recently in the last 5 years. We could talk for 30 minutes about this study called the WHI study, which is a study that came out in 2002, and it was totally inaccurate. And that's where we get all of the misinformation about estrogen and breast cancer. So that's like one of my favorite topics because I love to tell people the truth about that study.
It's
But
so misunderstood. I've done so much like researching in that. Okay, sorry,
yeah,
keep
no,
going.
it's
Yeah.
really, it's so relieving to hear women are starting to kind of understand that it's we were misinformed. But
100%.
so we used to think that you had to start HRT by 10 years of your last menstrual period because there was gonna be a cardiovascular risk of stroke and blood clots if you started after that. So menopause would be 1 year without a menstrual period. So if you had menopause at 51, then you had until you were 61 to start HRT, and that's it. That's changed. So we now take cardiovascular risk into consideration when we make the decision to start a woman on HRT when she's past 10 years of menopause or not. The other thing is women can stay on HRT their whole life.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So you can stay on HRT from the time you started in perimenopause until you're 140, theoretically. I mean, I don't think we have people living to 140 yet. No studies on that, but that has been proven to be safe and effective, and women have a very high quality of life. What's coming out now is the research about, well, what happens if you don't stay on it, and what happens if you're not on it, and those studies are way more alarming than even the initial WHI study. The other thing is that women kind of fall into two categories. That's kind of what I've experienced in my career, is some women just want HRT to kind of get them through. They want their hormones to come down. They want HRT to support them as they come down, and then they go off. And some women, they want the HRT to support them as they come down, but then they stay on a very low dose or maintenance dose or a baseline dose to give them the cardiovascular, cognitive, and bone protection that HRT can provide. So you can stay on it as long as you want to.
That's so interesting. I know it's funny because I remember when my mom went on HRT and the research, I mean, like you said, things are changing so much and so much good information, good research is coming out. And I think women are, like me, are becoming more aware that it's not this scary thing that we all thought it was for so long. Because I remember when my mom went on it, she was like, I can only be on this for just a short amount of time. And I remember her weaning off and things like that. And so I appreciate you explaining all that because I think that is something, like I said, that could be a whole nother life of awareness because that's one of the biggest questions I get in my inbox all the time. And, obviously I am not medically trained, so I don't give that advice, but I just know for me, it was a game changer. So I think more women are becoming more open to it, which is good too.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So I want to be mindful of your time, Lauren, and I don't know if there's any last questions you have or anything you wanted to kind of get in before our time is over, but I'll leave it to you. And I wanted to just mention that you and I are going to be doing a webinar together, which I'm like so excited about. Yep, September 17th, and it's going to be at 12 noon Eastern, which is 9 a.m. Pacific, and then it'll be 11 Mountain Time. So yeah, I just wanted to kind of let everyone know that that'll be coming, and to send us questions ahead of time. Anyone can DM me and ask me questions, and then I can send them back, and then usually I'll make a video about it, answering it too, because we like to kind of keep the questions going. But yeah, I just wanted to be mindful of your time. Last minute questions, to answer them. And
I think, you know what, I honestly think that's it because I feel like we've gotten through a lot. It's a good start. I feel like we need to do it again because there's just so much on this that we could talk about. But I am so excited for the webinar. I'm so excited to collaborate with you guys because, like I said, you are a wealth of knowledge. Like I could talk about this all day. I find it so interesting. The many phone calls we've had, I'm like, I could keep going because it's just so interesting. And I just love that I've been able to meet women like you who are so knowledgeable in this field. And if you guys are looking for, if you need help, Kristin is the way to go because she's amazing, so knowledgeable, like she just showed you just here. And like I said, I love your page. I'm constantly learning from you guys, and I just appreciate all the work that you're doing to help women.
Yeah, thank you so much. And yeah, very similar. I'm like so grateful that we found you. It's just been such a blessing for Michelle and I, and we love you know, watching you and learning new tips and tricks all the time, because it's really nice to feel good about how you look on the outside too, inside and outside. So
100%. I mean, it's that whole picture, right? And I love that we are both doing that and think it's amazing and hopefully helping a lot of women.
yeah. Thank you so much, Lauren. It was
Thank
so
you.
fabulous to talk to you. And like, I hope we get to do it again sometime.
100%. Let's do it. I love it. So thank you so much for having me. I appreciate you.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Bye, guys.